Okay, guys, I'm back live here for the evening session here. This is my 5 to 6 o'clock live stream. So I'm just checking to see if anyone is in here at this moment. Looks like nobody yet. I already have a few. Oh, I see one person in here. If you could say hello or say your name, who it may be. I've been communicating with students all morning and afternoon, so I know if you didn't have a chance to make the early session, just saying hello. So you could write on the sidebar for the live chat for 6th grade science. We have the cell project that was due today. So good job for those students that turned it in. Majority of the students that have communicated online here have turned something in. So this is just my live time for this evening, and I'm going to go over some things on plants. If you missed the earlier sessions, you could always go back and listen to them again for the times that I'm live. So I'm here to support you guys and help you guys out with the assignments and going over some things on plants. So I don't see anybody. There was one person in, and then somebody jumped out there. But I will go over things on plans for today. And like I said, you can go to my other viewings for today too. I have two other ones that are up there on my channel here. Okay, I got two people in here now. So if someone wants to say hello, who's in here for the evening session. If you have any questions about cell project or what we're talking about next on plant cells, I'm here to give you assistance, help you guys out. I know it's been a new challenge of teaching and working and doing assignments from home, from your end and my end. So I know it's been a new thing for all of us. So if you have any questions, this is the time to ask. During this live times, Mondays are my times I'm on here 3 times a day, 8:30 to 9:30, 1 to 2, and now 5 to 6 o'clock. Okay, well, I'll get started. So you know that the cell project is due today, so good job for those turning those in. I've been getting them throughout the day and throughout the weekend, so good job on turning those in. So they are due today. We'll have another project due Friday, all right? And this is on plants. So we're learning a little bit about plants. We studied the animal and plant cell. Now this is just talking about plants in general. So just kind of going into some of the vocabulary and important things to know about plants. Okay, you could kind of take notes on these or listen to some of the things I'm talking about, and you can go back and research these things. There's 5 main parts to a plant. So the first part that I'm going to talk about are its roots. The roots are one of the most important parts to the plant. So if anyone wants to answer this question, if you're in here, there's only a couple people in here right now. What is the job or what is the function of the root? Does anyone have an idea what the function or job of the root may be? You could type your answer in the sidebar to communicate. If you are willing to communicate, it's totally up to you. I know it's new for all of us here, so if you want to respond that way, you can. That's the way to write in. So if you have questions, I've communicated with some students this morning and afternoon with students writing in on the sidebar there. So the main job for the root of the plant is to keep the plant in place. It's a support system, so it anchors the plant into the ground. So it also takes water from the soil and takes food from the soil. So water and food is a way for it to transport throughout the plant. So that's the main functions of the root, or is to keep it placed, keep it anchored, and it is also to take in food and water to be passed throughout the plant. So that's the main job of the roots. So that's one of the five main parts of the plants. The next one is the stem. So you can write these down, or you could just listen to them, and then, like I said, you could research them. And your activity for you guys to do is to create. By the end of the week, you're going to research three plants in your neighborhood. Some of the other videos here, so I'm just restating certain things. So you're researching three plants in your neighborhood. They can be anything, any type of plant: geraniums, lilies, roses, if you have grown in your area, trees. It could be a magnolia tree, fig tree, apple tree, things that you may have around your neighborhood or in your backyard. So you're going to compare and contrast the different types of plants that you have, and I'm going to talk about the categories of the plants and some of these five main functions. And some of them are a little bit different. So when you research them, you might find some things different about each part of the plant. These five main parts. So the stem, the main job of the stem, if anyone wants to respond to this during this live session, like I said, there's only a few people in here right now. Um, you can write your answer if you want to take a minute and answer that, or I'm still going to provide you the answer, but it's good to see if somebody wants to partake and put an answer down there too for the jobs of the stem. Okay, well, the main job for the stem is and to keep it to stand up, okay, and to keep it, keep it erect, and it's also to transport the food and water throughout the plant. So it acts like an elevator. It takes things up, takes things down, food up and down to the rest of the plant. So it also gives it some support, the stem as well, to keep the plant, keeping it straight up. Okay, so those are the two main functions of the stem. All right, the next one are its leaves. If there's anybody in here that would like to try to answer what would be the main function of the plant leaves, what do they do? What is their main function? Anyone wants to respond? Or if anyone just wants to say hello, how your day's going, what you've maybe done throughout the day, hopefully got a chance to go outside. I was just outside like an hour ago, just taking a walk around my neighborhood, so just getting some fresh air. So it's good to get up and move when you're kind of restricted to certain areas. So hopefully you guys are getting that exercise in there as well. Um, so the leaves, who could tell me what are the main functions of the leaves? I said there's only a few people I see in here. Um, the leaves. The leaves help the plant breathe, or help give the plant air, breathes in air, and it takes in sunlight. Those are the main jobs or main functions for the leaves. So it helps provide for photosynthesis, getting that direct sunlight to build that energy from the sun for it to get its food. So taking in sunlight, breathing in air, those are some of the main functions of the leaves, providing photosynthesis. All right, and our next part of the plant, another important part of the plant, or its flower. Not the flower just as itself, but inside the plant there's a flowering part. Okay, if anyone wants to take a guess what the main function is of the flower, what does the flower do? I had a student in here earlier was got all these answers right, so it was really good to have someone kind of pay attention to what's going on. So, like I said, there's only a few people in this live session right now. Don't be shy. Say hello if you like. I think it's a good way to communicate with you guys. And if you have any questions, just provide you some information of what we learned about. And hopefully you had a chance to see the video that Mr. Canalou and I put out this morning here as well with plants. So we were down in St. John's River Base, a Boy Scout camp that Mr. Canalou runs in the summertime. And we were talking to you guys about some plants down there that we came across, and was researching some of the plants in that area and how they function and how they are different from one another. One was a vascular plant, one was a non-vascular plant that we talked about. Mr. Canley was talking about a Spanish moss, which is non-vascular, and I was talking about a white tiger lily that is an invasive species from Europe, or Asia, I should say. And whenever an invasive species is a species that does not live here and is brought over from somewhere else, and it kind of takes over our area, takes over our ecosystem. So that's what we were doing. We were filming a little segment down there on plants, and then having you guys go ahead and research them around your neighborhood as well, and providing us with some research and feedback about plants. So that'll be your assignment for Friday. Also, you'll have a brain pop too to do this week. Hopefully, you have access to brain pop. If you have a Clever login, it's through Clever that you can get that access through there too. Going back to the flower, its main job inside the plant. And if anyone wants to still take a guess, I know, like I said, there's only a couple people in the session here. But the main job of the flower, it attracts insects and it helps pollinate the flower. So it makes its seeds. So making seeds help pollinating it from animals that come like insects and birds that kind of go from flower to flower to spread those seeds for more plants to grow. So that's some of the main jobs of the flower. So it attracts insects with its color and its smell. And then insects feed on it, they pollinate the flowers, and also makes its seeds in the flowering part. And the last part of the plant that's an important part is the seeds, like we just talked about. So what do the seeds do? What are the main functions or their main importance of a plant? What do seeds do? So these 5 parts are some things that you should be including in your research when you research your plant around your area, your 3 plants. You can include these 5 parts in your paragraph: the seeds, the flowers, the roots, the stems, and the leaves. And maybe tell how your plant, when you research how they reproduce or how they spread their pollination, like their flowering parts. An insect kind of takes part on them, or maybe their root system. Maybe you can take a look, dig around the plant. You can take a look at how large or small the root system may be. So those are some things, just giving you guys some ideas. So the seeds, going back to the seeds, we got another person in here. Anyone else want to say hello? If you have any questions, I'm just kind of talking about plants for right now. So a couple people on the live feed here for this evening session. So going back to the seeds, and what they do, their main function is for the plant to make another plant just like them. So is to reproduce. Okay, so they have a small plant inside them. So when it's dropped to the soil, or they're carried by wind, water, or animals, those are ways some seeds can be dispersed. Okay, the wind can get a hold of it. The water can make it travel with it in the water. Animals could spread it to other areas. So those are some things the seeds can do for it to move around to different parts and reproduce and start a new colony somewhere else where plants are going to grow. So that is on seeds. So seeds are the last one. Doesn't matter the order, but they're the 5 main parts I mainly covered were roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and seeds. Those are the 5 main parts of the plant. Okay, and those are just the basic parts of the plant that we're talking about. So these are some things that you can include in your research of your on your paper whenever you turn it in on Friday. So you're researching 3 plants, comparing and contrasting them in your neighborhood using these 5 parts, and plus a few other things I'm going to get into on their on the classification of plants and how they're classified is kind of the next step that I'm going to get into. Actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about importance of the plants. How are plants important, or why are they important? Anyone want to try to answer that one? How or why plants are important to us? Not only providing us for the oxygen we need and carbon dioxide and the release of the gases, what are some other ways that they are important? Anyone wants to take a guess or write your answers on the sidebar? Why plants are important? Okay, well, plants are important for a couple reasons. They provide food, not just for you and I, but for other animals in the environment. Okay, animals eat them, other organisms eat food, the foods from these plants, and even humans, for human consumption as well. So food is another way they're important. So apples from apple trees, oranges, grapes, pears, wide varieties of bananas. We got lots of different types of fruits that come from certain types of trees and certain types of plants. So they provide us nutrients and the vitamins and minerals that we need in our daily lives as well. Um, Another reason why they're important, they provide shelter. They provide homes for lots of animals and organisms. Think about birds in the rainforest or just in your neighborhood. They make their homes, they nest in trees, they provide shelter, they provide shade, they provide an environment for other organisms to live in. So, those are some of the main importance of why plants were important to us in our ecosystem, not only just from the carbon dioxide and oxygen gas exchange in our environment, but for food and shelter, some other importances in our environment for that, for plants. All right, anybody else have any questions? Like I said, there's only a couple people in here at the moment right now um, for this live feed session here. Um, Now's the time to ask any questions, but even on the cell project, going back to that before I kind of go back into some other things on cells or plants in general, going more into the classification. Just want to make sure you get the basic understanding or idea of what's kind of going on like this week. So this week, cell project due today, then you'll have a project due Friday and a brain prop Friday. So I'll be live today, be live Wednesday, and then your projects will be due. You can turn them in on Friday. So I'm available 3 times this week or today for these live sessions that you go back and look at, and then also available. I'll have 2 sessions on Wednesday that I'll be doing the same times, 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning, and then again at 1 to 2 on Wednesdays. So those are my times. For 6 clients in the activities for this week. So making sure you're just kind of following along on plants in general. All right, I'll go into the plant introduction of the classification of plants next. So there are a couple main categories or groups of plants. There's really 3, but we're going to focus on 2 of them because the third one really aren't really considered plants, but you may consider them plants, but are fungi like mushrooms, lichens, that category. They're really not, which are really not plants, but some scientists classify them as plants. So we're not going to focus on fungi with mushrooms and lichens and stuff like that. You probably have heard of those, or maybe studied them in 5th grade or other grades coming up. But we're going to focus on non-vascular and vascular plants. So those are the 2 types of plants. Non-vascular are most primitive, all right? Meaning they're very old. Primitive means something old, and they're the older way of plants. So they rely on water to come to them. So they're not very large. They're kind of usually small, but they're spread out. Okay, mosses are an example for that. So moss that you see growing on rocks. In the video, Mr. Candler had Spanish moss. It kind of looked like a beard as well, because it kind of real stringy, hangs from trees. The Spanish moss. Vascular plants, on the other hand, they contain a vascular tissue. And the vascular tissue actually transports water and nutrients up and down throughout the plant, throughout the stem, the leaves, and the roots, and they all kind of work together in that vascular system. All right, so those are the 2 types of plants that you're going to probably most likely come across in this project when you're doing your paper, your research on your plant for this week. So you're most likely going to have more vascular plants than non-vascular, unless you live in an area where it's kind of marshy, or you might have like a pond in your area. You might have some algae, you might have some types of moss in your backyard, all depending on where you live here in the Jacksonville area. Where we were at, there was a lot of mossy and algae-like area where we were at the Boy Scout camp where Mr. Kenaloo works in the summer. So there was a lot of estuary type of water off the estuary, kind of like a bay. It's a mix of salt and fresh water. So there was in streams that kind of mixed together. So it's a unique ecosystem in that area off the St. Johns River there, and the area we were called was called Doctor's Lake, just a lake off of the river. So you kind of get a mixture of saltwater and freshwater from the river, from the St. Johns River, and then more freshwater from a lake. So you're going to get some crossover and different types of organisms there as well too. Moving on with the plants for the non-vascular plants. A couple other important details are that they have no vascular tissue, meaning that they don't have the root stems and leaves that kind of send the nutrients throughout the plants. So no stems, roots, or leaves are found on non-vascular plants like mosses and algae. They are usually low growing, not all of them. As you saw in the video, Mr. Candler had the Spanish moss, so that they usually hang from the trees. Okay, you see them hanging in some of the oak trees and stuff like that. Um, and most of the time, they are close to the ground. They're usually found close to the ground. So the non-vascular plants are found close to the ground. They reach maturity pretty quickly. So their cycle kind of goes pretty fast, is what that means. And they grow in a variety of climates. So they can be found in cold areas, warm areas. So mosses can be found and algae can be found in lots of different types of environments throughout our country, if not throughout the world. They produce food in every cell as well, meaning food like photosynthesis, because they're usually green. They can be different colors, especially some of the algae, but they will get energy from sunlight as well. So that's why they would produce food in every cell. All right, so that is non-vascular plants. And then kind of going into more on mosses here. A moss is flowerless plant. Like I said, it kind of looks like a carpet-like appearance. You usually see them on rocks. Okay, they're usually widespread over a rock. So they usually lie on the top and grows in moist areas. Let me just double check. Okay, I got another person in here now. Just getting sidetracked here for a minute. So just seeing how many people. Okay, I got a fourth person in here. If anyone wants to say hi, hello. I'm live streaming right now, so it's good to see some people in the segment here for this evening segment. So I'm talking about mosses and non-vascular plants. If you just joined in, we are doing a project this week on plants. If you haven't heard from or saw messages in Microsoft Teams or from emails um, on what to do for today. So we're learning about mosses and non-vascular and the difference between vascular and vascular plants right now. So you could take notes, you could go back and listen to these segments. I know the last few were like an hour long because that's how long I'm in here for. So you're probably hearing some of the same things. So just restating things throughout the day that I said. It's like the third time presenting this for today, which I usually do 3 or 4 times a day teaching the same class anyhow. So it's kind of just used to hearing yourself over again. So getting used to that as well too. So that being said, the mosses, going back to mosses here, they look like carpet-like appearance, usually grow on rocks, and they're used by gardeners as mulch. Okay, how they're used in the economy because it helps keep moisture close to plant roots as well. So gardeners like to have them as mulch growing to keep their plant roots grown well. So that is the moss. All right, and another one, it's under the classification of non-vascular plants as algae. So those are the two that you mainly just got to really think about because those are probably the two most common that you'll find in this area. Probably more algae than moss if you were to do that. But other than the Spanish moss, you'll find that as well too. So if you have some Spanish moss in your backyard, you can do that one too as well. All right, so they're non-vascular. They have different shapes and sizes and colors. They're simple plants that contain photosynthetic pigments, such as chlorophyll, found in wet soil. Okay, so algae, they can be different colorations. Like I said, there's something called blue-green algae, which you might see out in the ocean, or red tide type of algae too. They could be a tint of different colors, but green seems to be, pretty much it's the common color for algae. You've probably seen algae if you have a fish tank at home. If you don't clean it very often, or if it's not filtrated right, you will probably get some algae that will grow around the edges of your aquarium or maybe on the rocks of the bottom where the gravel's at there too. So they do like a wet and moist environment. So algae is usually commonly found in streams and creeks and stuff like that as well too. So those are some areas that that could have algae. All right, we saw some algae down at the Boy Scout camp there too. All right, now moving on to vascular plants. Okay, looks like I got somebody in here. Oh, Carly. Hi, Carly. How are you? Hopefully your day is well. I want to say hello to you. All right. Thanks for joining in. Um, if you have any questions, we have a project due on Friday. So thanks for coming in and listening in. Um, It'll be on plants. You can listen in on this segment, or you can go back to some of the ones I did earlier today on plants and listen to some of the things, same stuff I'm talking about. So we're learning about plants in general, some of the main functions and parts of plants, and types of plants and their category, how they're categorized. So we're on vascular plants is what I'm talking about right now, and I'll continue. If you have any questions, Carly, please feel free to ask anything. Retaining, I got your cell project. Nice job on your cell project. So good job turning that in. So only thing I've assigned this week is this plant project due Friday, and also a brain pop due Friday. So it's the video with the quiz to take through your login through Clever. So hopefully you can log in to do that and to take the quiz. Okay. So those are the two assignments for this week that I'll be working with you through those assignments there and the logins there. So hopefully everything works well with you on your end. If you have any other questions, you definitely can help out with, or you can chime in anytime here. It's good to hear you. Good to see that someone's communicating in here. So I do like having some feedback and knowing who's around and who's available during this live feed session. All right, let's see. Going back to vascular plants. Some characteristics of vascular plants is that they have vascular tissue. So that is the tissue that moves food and nutrients around the plant, from the roots to soil, or the stem to the leaves, and so on. So vascular plants have leaves, stems, and roots. They have those main functions, not the not some of the mosses and algae. Even though they're classified as non-vascular, they work a little bit differently. All right. They produce food for plants only in the leaves. So vascular plants produce food for the plants only in the leaves. And why is that? Does anyone want to take a guess why they produce it mainly in there? All right, looks like you wrote something here, Carly. I'm going to look at your message here. Um, I don't know if you want to make a video on it, but I don't know how you would do that and send it to me. It would have to be on a bigger file. You'll still have to send that to me. You can if you want to, but I don't. Make sure I would be able to see it. I think writing it's a little bit easier, but I'm open if you want to try something like that. So yeah, I would say yes, Carly. If you want to make a video about it and explain it and talk about what you researched on each of your three types of plants. Remember, you need three plants in your neighborhood or your in your neighborhood or your backyard or your area in general. So you're researching three and you're explaining the difference between the three, if they're vascular, non-vascular. You're telling me about their roots, their stems, the leaves, how they get their nutrients, how they reproduce. So the more you can tell me about it, the better. So yeah, if you want to try a video on it, I'll be willing to look at that there too. Just make sure it's something that's compatible for me to open up and to see and to view. All right. So yeah, you can do that. That sounds good. All right. So I'm going to continue on. Keep asking more questions. That's great. I love the. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to respond to that. So you see it written over here. So yes, you can do a video if you want, but you know, if you paper's easier, that's whatever the easiest method is for you at this time and point in time. I know all of us are under different different way of doing things now with teaching online and learning programs and going on computers. So it's all new for this is new for all of us. So this is a new way of learning. All right. So going back to vascular plants, they produce food for the plants only in their leaves. Okay, and they have a long lifespan, okay, as well. They have a longer lifespan, one season or many seasons, okay, and they grow tall and wide, um, wider than some of the non-vascular plants. They have chlorophyll for photosynthesis as well, okay, so chlorophyll for photosynthesis, and examples are ferns, trees, grasses, and flowering plants are some of the main their main types or examples of a vascular plants. So ferns are one, grass, trees, flowers in general. So majority of your plants that you're going to come across are going to be vascular plants. Okay, and then the non-vascular. I said the two that are non-vascular you're going to come across are mosses and algae, both found in this area, so they could be used in this project as well too. Okay. All right, let's see if I'm just double checking to see if anybody else has any more questions or if anybody else checked in, okay, for this live feed session. This is my evening session, my 5 to around 6 o'clock session here. So this is a time to ask questions. Just kind of giving a little bit of a brief lesson too, so you can go back and listen to these. Just covering new material for this week and some things that you could be looking up and just to have some feedback with you guys. So this is the time to ask questions that you may have. So going on to vascular plants. Now, vascular plants are subdivided into two groups of vascular plants. They are two types of plants that produce seeds differently. They call these two types of seeds gymnosperms and angiosperms. So gymnosperms mean that they don't have a seed casing. They call it an exposed or naked seed, and that's just there. Okay, angiosperms have a vessel seed, meaning it's covered. Okay, so those are the two types of seed casings of the undervascular plants. Okay, so you got to know the difference between gymnosperm and angiosperm. You'll probably see that in your brain pop as well. That was assigned, so you'll find gymnosperms and angiosperms in there too. So these are two groups of vascular plants. So you got to look at these over, and you should probably include these in your research too. Find out if your plant is a gymnosperm or an angiosperm. Does it produce its seed have a case or does not have a case? So that's what that kind of means. So breaking it down into gymnosperms versus angiosperms. So gymnosperms, like I said, they expose their seeds. It's just open. There's nothing covering them. Examples are pine trees, spruce trees, ferns, conifers. These would be types of gymnosperms. Okay, so they would be under that classification of gymnosperms, meaning that they have an exposed or an open case on their seeds. Okay, it's not enclosed. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions here so far? Okay. Very good. Continuing on. Angiosperms, on the other hand, they produce and store their seeds in an ovary, often called fruit. Or examples of that would be roses, elm trees, geraniums, apple trees. Those would be considered under the angiosperms. Okay, so they actually have a fruit or a casing over them that kind of keeps them enclosed. All right, so they produce a little bit differently. All right, so those types of trees, like I just mentioned, are plants, elms, roses, geraniums, apple trees, they're going to be under the angiosperm. I believe the one type of lily that I talked about in the video with Mr. Kendall and I, they were an angiosperm. They were classified under an angiosperm classification as well. But the Spanish moss, on the other hand, they don't have this. Remember, they're non-vascular, so they're not going to produce, they're going to reproduce differently. So that's going to be a separate categorization from that. All right, some subclasses now of just angiosperms. So when angiosperms are broken down because of the type of seed that is, they're broken down into monocots and dicots. So that's the next thing you should jot down or should look over for your plant there. A monocot or dicot. Does my plant have one seed or multiple seeds? So mono meaning one. It has a single seed leaf casing, or what they call cotyledon. So the flower petals grow in groups of 3 usually for monocots, and their leaves have parallel veins. Okay, parallel meaning going right next to each other. They're veins. Okay, so monocots are a type of a seed under the classification of angiosperms, which is a seed that is encased. Okay, all right, and the flowers are often small and they're overlooked under the monocots, okay? And they usually grow for only 1 year, okay? So they're like their life cycle for 1 year. And there are some examples of types of monocots are corn, grasses, onions, lilies, like I mentioned earlier, and grain. So if you're living in a farming area, or you have some a garden in your backyard, you may grow corn, you may grow onions, they're going to be considered a monocot because they have one seed. Okay, a lot of lilies and grains, those ones would also be considered under the monocot classification there too. All right, just checking to see if anyone else is in here now. Looks like a couple people dropped out, so I'm down to 2 people. I've had up to 4 this evening, so good to have communication with somebody. So Carly, if you're still in here, have any more questions, this is the time to ask about plants that we're talking about and or the cell project that you did. So and or anything else. If you did something fun today, I don't know, tell me, maybe you did something fun. I don't know, hopefully got to get outside for a little bit today. If you got a chance to walk around your neighborhood or ride your bike, play with a friend, you know, it's a little interaction here. It'll be good to hear from you guys. All right, so that is the monocot. All right, and the last part of the subclass of angiosperms are the dicots. Okay, 2 seeds, meaning they have 2 seeds, called cotyledons. All right, so they're a little bit different. Not than one. Di means 2, mono means 1. Like I said, they're flowers or petals. They grow in groups of 4 or 5. And their leaves have a network of veins that branch out. Remember, the monocots were parallel veins, so they were a little bit different than the dicots. So the monocots leaves had parallel veins, whereas the dicot leaves have a network of veins that kind of branch out. Okay, for the dicots. The greatest number of plants are dicots. Sunflowers, daffodils, daisies, some of the ones that you might see in your neighborhood, lilies. These are most likely going to be your dicots. All right, they tend to live longer and have one season or many seasons. Some things that they do are produce food, clothing, as well as housing. Okay, for certain things there too. So they produce food, clothing, and housing. And examples of this type of the dicots are, like I said, sunflowers, trees, beans. Your beans would be classified as a bean seed, having 2. Pumpkin seeds usually have 2 too. Clover as well would be some of them that would have a dicot. All right. Any other questions so far? I'm pretty much wrapping up some things on plants, that just going over some basics. Vascular versus non-vascular, gymnosperm versus angiosperm, dicots versus monocots. So these are some things that each plant are different in each of their subcategories depending on the plant. So you're researching a plant, you're researching 3 plants, they all are going to be different in some aspect. You're comparing and contrasting some of their main parts, their roots, their stems, their leaves, the way they reproduce in their seeds and their flowers. And you're going to tell me, are they vascular, non-vascular? Are they angiosperm or gymnosperm? Are they monocot or dicot? So those are some things I'm looking for in your research paper that'll be due on Friday, comparing the 3 types of plants in your neighborhood, okay, or backyard. Okay, I'll just take a little break here. I only have 3 people in here at this moment. If you have any questions, this is the time to ask. Type it to me on the live chat sidebar there so I could communicate back to you. I only had 1 person communicate. Carly, I don't know if you're still in here. If you're still in here, you can still say hi or have any more questions. Other students communicating this morning with, so it's good to hear their names or hear me talking to them too, and my other live sessions that I already have filmed up on my channel that you can tune into. So make sure you tune into one of them. You don't have to listen to all 3 of them. This is the time I'm available because I'm like a broken record in all 3 of these. So I'm just trying to just get the information out to you guys, and still try to make it interesting and fun so you can do something outside and you're not on an iPad the whole entire time. I know you have math and reading assignments to do, so science, try to make it a little bit interesting here, make it a little bit something outdoorsy for you guys to do. I enjoy being outside as well, and it was fun shooting a video with Mr. Canaloo down at the camp there that you've seen over the last couple times. We shot the last few in the classroom, so this was the first one we shot outside, and we're working on another one here too. I don't know if it's going to be this week or next week, but we did have a segment on water lilies, but some things didn't film. The volume did not sound very well when we went back to listen to it. So, um, oh, let's see. Another question here, Carly. All right, Carly says, okay, it is a plant. That is a good question. Asking if you could do the project on herbs like dill and others. Yeah, I will allow that as a type of plant. It's something that's edible there too. So yeah, I would say yes to that too. I would probably prefer more of the plants that are the garden plants or the trees. But yeah, if you want to try one of them, but make sure try a dill in there too, or herb. But then also do maybe a like a lily or Spanish moss or algae just to kind of keep it diverse. So I'll say yes to that, Carly. So I'm writing back to you on there. So good to have that interaction with you on that. So yeah, just don't do all three types of herbs, okay? So if you know what I mean. So maybe one of the three, do the herb like the dill, and then your other plant, maybe you might want to do a lily or a daffodil or sunflower, something like that. And then maybe a type of tree, so maybe a fig tree or whatever. So you have a wide variety of different things to use. I'm just giving you some ideas, and also make it easier to you because you may even have that in your garden. So so maybe you're growing that, so that's even better yet. So that's great. So that'll be good to have for you to use. Um, So let's just see. I'm just gonna, if anyone wants to participate in here, um, moss. Is moss vascular or non-vascular? If you were paying attention earlier, is it a vascular plant or non-vascular plant? Okay, well, a moss, and it's all right if you don't want to participate, that's fine, is a non-vascular plant. Mosses are non-vascular. All right, remember I said they don't have roots, stems, or leaves, so that makes them non-vascular. So that's one of the main importances with them. Okay, so mosses are non-vascular. All right, let's try a next one here. How about a sunflower? Anyone wants to guess, is it a vascular or non-vascular plant? A sunflower. You can write your answer on the sidebar or just joining in. I'm just kind of giving you guys a little quiz if you were paying attention earlier, just kind of going through a couple plants and asking you if they're vascular or non-vascular. Give you some characteristics on what makes a plant vascular versus a plant that's non-vascular. Okay, well, a sunflower would be a vascular plant because they have roots, stems, and leaves. So if it has roots, stems, and leaves, that's an easy clue that it's a vascular plant. So it's going to transfer those nutrients up and down the plant. It gets photosynthesis from the sunlight, where it's going to feed it through the stems, and its leaves or roots, and then vice versa back up to the stems. So that is going to be a vascular plant. How about a gymnosperm or angiosperm? So does anyone want to take a guess what a rose might be? Gymnosperm or angiosperm? Oh, okay, vascular. Good. It looks like somebody answered that. So Carly, good job. You are correct. Good job, Carly. So you said vascular, so you are correct on that answer there. So good job. All right, what about a rose? Is a rose an angiosperm or a gymnosperm? Want to take a guess? What a rose would be? It's angiosperm or a gymnosperm. Remember, gymnosperms had no casing over it, no covering over the seed. Roses or our angiosperms have a covering over the seed, okay, or a fruit is protected with the fruit. What that means, they protect their seeds with the fruit. All right, in the case of two fruits. So, what do you think for a rose? Does anyone want to try? Carly, I don't know. You seem like you're still on here or in here, which is good. So, a rose, angiosperm or gymnosperm from some of the things we talked about. So, angiosperm has a protective case or covering. Gymnosperm, no case or covering. So what do you think for a rose, the type of plant, what a rose might be? Well, I'll go ahead and give you that answer. Let's see an answer come in here from over the next maybe minute or so. But think about the rose. It is a vascular plant, right? It has the nutrients from the root stems and leaves. But think about its casing, the where it's going to, the middle part of the flowers. It can have a flowering part or not. Okay, well, since there's no answer on that, that's okay. I will say the rose actually is a angiosperm, so it does have a protected seed casing for the fruit, and it has two fruits actually. So that would be under that classification. Very good. All right. Let me see. I'm just kind of giving you guys just a couple different types of plants to tell me the difference between just from some of the vocabulary we studied. How about a pine tree? A pine tree. A gymnosperm or angiosperm. Now remember, they're like a cone or like in a classification of conifers there. So their casings might be different. A pine tree. You've probably seen pine cones. That should be a clue. You've seen pine cones. So that's the seed itself, right? So they would be classified as a gymnosperm. So they have no protective covering on that. So that would be a pine tree would be considered a gymnosperm. All right, it's just giving you guys some examples here. I mentioned this one earlier. How about this one? Monocot or dicot? Remember, mono means one, dicot means two. Corn. You may have corn grown in your backyard, or you've probably seen a cornfield before in a farming area. So think about corn. For this is asking about the seed itself. Monocot, one seed. Dicot, two seed. I think I mentioned this earlier. I was speaking about it if you were paying attention for this one. So give you a minute to answer that one if anyone wants to. Oh, okay. Looks like Carly wrote back there. Don't know. I forgot. That's okay. You're at least you're participating and paying attention. We're just learning this stuff now. So very good. So going back to that one about the monocot or dicot corn. So we were just talking about what is corn classified as. Is it monocot or dicot? You can write your answer in there. I'll put on the sidebar here monocot. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Or dicot. That's what I'm asking for with. So is it a monocot or dicot? That's what I'm asking. All right. You answered dicot. Actually, it's a monocot. Okay, it has one seed. I think I said earlier as I was reading some things to you about examples of ones that were classified under monocots. Corn, grass, onions, lilies, grain. All right, they are flowers that are small and they're overlooked, so they grow for only one season. Like corn has one season, so it's classified as a monocot. So it has a single seed leaf for corn. So it's a single seed leaf. If you ever get a corn, like a long corn on a cob, it's usually in a single seed leaf. So when you peel it, that's what that may what it would look like there. So in the flower, remember the petals grow in groups of three. So if you're peeling corn, it's usually like three sides to peel it down, and the leaves have parallel veins. So that's an easy indication that corn would be considered as a monocot. Okay, well, that was a good answer though, Carly. You're paying attention. You're listening, participating in this. I enjoy the feedback that I'm getting from you guys. So that's good to hear and good to know for you guys there. So, any other questions? Since we're getting kind of close with time towards the end of this segment here, like I said, I'm on this time from 5 to 6, around 6 o'clock. This is my live stream on what you guys should be learning about on plants, and went over some things with you guys here in the 5 main functions of plants, along with some of the classification of plants, if it's vascular, non-vascular, gymnosperm, angiosperm, dicots, monocots. So these are some of the main categorization. I can never say that. So um, yeah, and we'll have this project due Friday, and comparing 3 plants around your neighborhood. And the brain pop too. So keeping it simple this week. I'll be back on live on Wednesday morning, kind of going over review a few more things, kind of go over some things, and I'll probably talk a little bit more on different types of plants there, and give you some more information on the project and the plants, other types of plants too. So to give you some examples. So like I said, you're comparing 3 plants, and you're comparing and contrasting. You're talk about the 5 main parts of those plants: root, stems, leaves, flowers, and seeds, how they're different, how they work, okay, how they reproduce, how they spread their seeds, how they get their nutrients. They're all going to get nutrients different ways, especially if they're non-vascular, like mosses and algae. Okay, so make sure you include some different ones in there too, of the plants that you may have in your yard or your area. Okay. Other than that, any other questions, comments, concerns? Hopefully you get a chance to go outside before it gets dark. I like the weather staying light as it does. It doesn't get dark till what, 7:30, 8 o'clock. So hopefully get a chance to go outside and enjoy some of this weather this evening. Especially how hot it's been. At least a little cooler today. Yesterday was a really hot day. It was nice to get out and hike. Did a hike in a Nocatee Preserve. Okay, Carly asked here. It says, "What time is the one on Wednesday going to be?" Yeah. All right, Wednesday. I'll write it over here. So 8:30 to 9:30. I'm saying it in the morning. I'm on twice on Wednesday. All right, so I'm gonna put my time so you can see this. You could always write this down too. Good way to do that. So 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. and 1 to 2 p.m. That's the same times I did today, but I do a 5 to 6 today as well. So Mondays I have 3 times, Wednesdays 2 times. So there's the times there, Carly. Wednesdays will be 8:30 to 9:30, and then 1 to 2 p.m. So good job asking questions and being observant and participating today. I enjoy having the feedback to answer your questions and interaction with you guys. So that's good. Good to have and good to um, see that information on here. So that's good. Any other questions, Carly, that you may have? Since you've been the one responding the most in this room today. Well, it's good to have you on here. I'm on here for a couple more minutes here, so make sure you just know my times. So Mondays and Wednesdays, those are my times, same times for both. Zoom, no, I don't do Zoom. I do live streams here. So no Zoom. I'm on Zoom with the 5th graders, not with you guys. So just a YouTube. videos that we send to you and this YouTube channel. This is the time that I'm here. No, so I will not be on Zoom. I'm just answering your question on that one. So this is my channel. This is where to get the information, or to talk to me about certain things. So this is the time that I'm live with you guys here. All right. Any other questions, Carly? Anybody else? Looks like I have a couple people in here. So you can go back to on all these videos. They'll be saved on my file there. So go to my channel. You can watch any of these three. I know they're rather long. They're 50 minutes. So usually the beginning segment, probably the first 20 to 30 minutes is me presenting what about plants. So and then I kind of talk to some of you guys throughout the rest of the film. So usually about the first 20 to 30 minutes are probably the most important. You don't have to watch all three of them. They're all pretty much the same. So I'm just kind of here to give you assistance and guidance for the rest of them. So, all right, Carly, and anybody else in here, I'm going to sign off for today if there's no more questions, since it's a few minutes to 6 o'clock right now. So we will resume next Wednesday morning, 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. And then again at 1 to 2, continuing talking more about plants and more about what you should be doing. All right. All right. Excellent there, Carly. It says, have a great night. You too. Have a wonderful evening. Hopefully, you get a chance to go outside and start looking at some of your plants there, that some of the types of plants that you might want to research. Okay. All right. And then I'll be available on Wednesday as well, too. So, good job. You'll have the rest of the week to work on that and the brain pop. All right. So have a wonderful night, everyone that's on here. I'm going to be signing off for tonight. So wish you guys a good night and see you guys on Wednesday. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.